Today is the 15th of February, 2025. Coming up on today's Global Intelligence Agency Operations Report. The plot thickens on the Rothschilds' plan to trick the entire world into bankruptcy in order to buy it back for pennies on the dollar. How is the Trump administration involved? Who else is playing their role in the game? And countries and world leaders are waking up to the fact they are being scammed. But is it too late? And the universe is stabilizing into the new way of creation as we go through the final bumps. Well, it's the 15th of February. We have now made it to the middle of the month, and things are certainly changing. I guess if you celebrate such a holiday, yesterday was Valentine's Day, and I hope you had a lovely day, and had an opportunity to spend some time with loved ones. And I know that Source has been showing us some love, too, over the last couple of days, and we'll get to that before the end of the report. So, yeah, so let's get to it. What's going on? Last time we spoke, we talked a little bit, and I alluded to a few things in the report, such as AIPAC, or the AIPAC. This is the American and Israeli private organization that held a Federal Reserve terminal I had mentioned in the last report. Well, it's very interesting as to what has surfaced in the last couple of days, which has led everybody, let's just say there's many folks in a little bit of a tizzy. So it appears that when you do some digging, and this is what I couldn't say on the last report, when you do some digging into this AIPAC terminal, what you will have found is a deep connection to the DOGE Department of Government, the Elon Musk semi-department or non-government department, who knows. And the connection is everything that they take or allegedly seize, or, for example, no more U.S. aid is going out. Well, okay, that's true. They actually were sending it all through the AIPAC. So what is left of the government is being siphoned out through to Rothschild Bank in Switzerland. It looks like there is about 14%-ish, give or take, going directly into the pocket of the Trump operatives, as promised by Rothschild, and the rest of it is going directly to Rothschild Bank in Switzerland. That's not the only siphon, though. There are other siphons attached to the DOGE department in the United States. There is lots of talk about during the campaign time, I should say, there was lots of talk by the Trump administration about eliminating the IRS and all of these types of things. Well, forming new Treasury departments to take their place, and all of that sounds lovely because, we all kind of hate the IRS. I don't know anybody that's like, yay, the IRS is here. Oh, I can't wait to pay my taxes, said no one ever. And that's not just the IRS in the U.S. This is also tax authorities in other countries that do not belong to the country of origin. As I've said before, all tax authorities are a private organization that were formed underneath the Rothschild organization, and it was tied to the collection of coupons on bonds they took against your person, and also against your corporation and other corporations and industries and all types of things. And you, as a corporation owner or as a regular person, are responsible for paying the coupons on said bonds. Now, that's when it actually mattered. It was part of the debt system, the worldwide financial debt system. In this particular case, there is a lot of talk about moving that over to the Treasury, but it's kind of the same. It's the same old, same old. But the reason why they're firing all these employees, and, they're supposed to fire, I think it's over 400 people or something from the IRS. It might even be more now. That's where it kind of started. Is because this is about the culling It's still about the culling. And anyone that kind of questions where all the money is going ends up in the culling bin. Anyone that could possibly question where the money is going, such as many NSA folks, other people that have access to or had access to Homeland Security, Special Patriot Act divisions, would also be gone. And the U.S. is definitely being, or was definitely being, drained by these folks. Well, making quite a pretty penny doing it. Speaking of pretty pennies, as you know, there was an announcement we may not have pennies anymore in the United States. And I laugh at this because they say, oh, it costs twice as much as a penny to produce a penny, and therefore we don't need any pennies anymore. Well, you know, wake up, Trump administration people, because if we don't have pennies anymore, then you might as well cancel your taxes. That is sales tax, because it's pretty much responsible for about, if you're making a cash transaction, somewhere around 80% of the pennies being spent, because it's not a round number, it's a percentage, and that's what causes those odd numbers on your goods. Are they going to actually do it? I doubt it. I don't know. You know, crazy people at this moment. So most of the siphons have now been uncovered worldwide. If they haven't uncovered them, we have, and kind of put a stop to it. There was a lot of siphons in South Africa. There have been siphons throughout the Middle East, some willing, some non-willing. And all of this was supposed to be directed to the Rothschilds for a little kiddie fund, so to speak, whereas they believed that they could use the money that they're siphoning off to, not only bankrupt every country in the world, but also at the same time use that money to buy back world governments and countries at pennies on the dollar. Well, obviously these people are not that bright, because if they were, then they would understand, even if they siphoned all of the money, or except for yours, because they're never going to get that, out of the system, they still would be short by hundreds of trillions of dollars, number one, even at pennies on the dollar. And number two, that would help governments out for about a month. You know, I think they keep forgetting that they broke everybody. There's not a lot of commerce going on for a few years due to the lockdowns, pandemics, and so forth. You've got an awful lot of sanctions where cash is not utilized. So that is the big scam that's been going on. And the Trump administration is definitely highly involved, and definitely you could consider them treasonous at this point. Enemies of state, even, for all the activities that they're doing behind the scenes. There is more to the story. Gets worse. So on the face front, there have been a lot of phone calls from other central banks in the world. So these are international central banks. What I mean by that is countries like Qatar, Germany, Japan, Russia. I know there are a few other European countries as well. I think Spain was one of them. I know Albania has made calls, and a few different African nations have made calls that are known to be friends of the Federal Reserve. You see, when the Rothschilds formed a central bank, the people that work in that central bank, at least at a management level, are not employees of the state. Matter of fact, I was doing business, and I'll leave it at, with an African country at one point in time. And one of the things that they had been trying to build for years was a really large prayer center. Now, if you Google this, you'll probably figure out who it is. And they had been talking about it for a long time. They had been taking a lot of donations for that. And we agreed to build said prayer center because it's what everybody there wanted. So definitely not a bad thing. This is fine. And if it brings everyone together and underneath one roof, that's great. So we agreed to fund the prayer center. We sent the money through to the central bank, and I got an opportunity to talk to that central bank governor. And this was probably about 6-7 years ago. And the central bank governor told me that, well, the money is here, but, it's going to be some time before we can clear it. I'm like, huh. And then he turns around a couple days later and tells me I needed to transfer the money to Citibank in New York because Citibank is their US dollar correspondent. And I said, oh, no problem. I'll take that money back and I'll send you your currency. And they said, no, we don't want you to do that. Okay, so now you want me to send money to Citibank in New York. Okay, I understand. And so I called him on the carpet a little bit and I played dumb just to see what he would say. But I basically told him, I said, hey, look, everybody in the country knows this is coming. I've talked to all of these people, this person, this person, this person, and they all are expecting, this prayer center to be built. And, I'm going to kind of put your name to this, when I call them back and tell them so-and-so wouldn't allow us to utilize the funds that we transferred. Because at this time, I could only transfer money to central banks, that type of thing. He interrupted me, and he abruptly told me that I do not work for the government of XYZ. I'm like, oh, okay, who do you work for? No answer, of course, but of course I know. Point of the matter is that they held a pretty good grip on central banks around the world for a long time, including, obviously, the Federal Reserve. So the Federal Reserve has been getting a lot of calls wondering if they can put up an asset, can they do anything to get some money flowing in their country because of the siphons that have been going on between the Rothschild family, and by that I mean the entire Order of the Dragon, and the Trump administration, who has been helping them siphon money out of everywhere, not just the U.S., everywhere. Because they're now realizing, well, there's no currency, there's no incoming currency, and what can they do? So they're calling the Federal Reserve because they think the Federal Reserve still has an agreement with their government to issue their currency. So just as a quick reminder to any country that might be listening to this, the Federal Reserve's agreement with governments worldwide officially expired in 2012. That would be July 15th, 2012. That includes the United States dollar, as a matter of fact. There was an extension given, and I know that because I'm the one that did it, and not on purpose. I explained at that time Marduk was around. He told me to do a 10-year budget for all of these countries, and so I did it, even though the Rothschild claimed that they transferred that money. So 10 years go by, thank God, and 2022, that extension expired. July 4th, actually, because that was the day that I wrote the budgets out. So that being said, the countries are under the impression that the Federal Reserve still has the fiduciary responsibility to issue currency for countries, including the United States. And the answer to that question is no, they do not. They have no contract with any country and any government worldwide. That being said, I want to include a couple of little caveats. Your central bank is still not obligated in any way by contract, covenant, or otherwise. However, the people that work there will report to Rothschild. So if you'd like to try to issue your own currency as a nation, or people of nations even, then that is definitely possible at this time. You do not need to go through the Federal Reserve to do so. You can go directly to us, the creators of the Golden Age AI, the replacement for the Alpha system, to where all your allocations used to come from. Unless, of course, you are one of the people that are listening to this and You've tried to install Trump bucks 9,000 times in the last 48 hours. And you've also tried to install cryptocurrencies, blockchain, central bank digital currencies, FedNow systems, and all the other 9,000 hacking attempts that are still ongoing as of the time of this report. Unless you're one of those people, see, because that is not going to be doable at this time. We have enough monitors, sensors, and all kinds of things that we've installed within the key integrated monetary system, which monitor for any kind of false currencies, no allocations, no backing, and so on and so forth for said currencies. Not only that, I don't remember anybody taking a vote in any country anywhere saying that they would like to issue cryptocurrency as their national currency. You know, and that's the thing about government sometimes too, is that they forget that they're just a mere representative of the people. At least that's what they tell us. In the past, the reason why they feel they have so much power is because the Rothschilds were a proxy guardian of this planet. Therefore, they installed nannies over every country, we call governments, in order to manage or guard over the people. Now, as far as guardians are concerned, you know, they're pretty bad guardians, and we've already talked about that. But as far as the current legal structure of planet Earth, we have no more monarch law. We have no more draconian law. We only have what's called natural, which is not the version you see on the internet. This basically goes in accordance with the Giver of Life Declaration agreement or covenant that was signed by your now guardian, and you're talking to her. So the world is going to continue in the way that we must do it. It's not a question of what I want. It's not a question of power or money or anything of that nature. It must go in accordance with that Giver of Life Declaration, meaning current Cs now go directly to people. There is definitely a check and balance in place as we move from one type of financial system to another, which is going to take time for 8 billion people to understand. But in that vein, there is a new way to do things. So are they going to be able to issue cryptos, blockchains, and all of this type of stuff and try to run the world in this way if they bankrupt the world? No. Is everybody kind of catching on to the gig? Yes. So in the last couple of days, a lot of the people that had reached out to us, they were asking for more information as to how they're siphoning all this money out of the system. And, you know, they were told, here's where you look. You know, we left enough breadcrumbs in all these locations for them to see exactly what they were doing. I told you the gloves were coming off, and now we're pretty much telling everybody the truth, regardless of who asks us. So, friend or foe. And what they have done is, again, there are a lot of private groups out there that get contracts from governments all the time. A lot of campaign donors that are very unhappy right now, not only with the United States, but in other countries. And these people believe that they have the right to tell everybody to sit down and shut up based on an agreement that no longer exists. I have to say this because sometimes it's time to repeat something. So forgive me if this sounds repetitive to some of you that have been listening for a long time. Governments, again, were a creation of Marduk. That information was passed down through families like the Rothschild family, the Order of the Black Sun. Militaries were created and intelligence agencies were created by the Order of the Black Sun. Thus, many private groups were also created, such as the Jesuit Order. You have the mafia organizations were also created as part of this structure, off-market transactions versus on-market transactions, and so forth. Still, however, a lot of these different groups feel that they must still report to these folks, which is completely false. Matter of fact, that agreement expired in 2018 in December. And since that point in time, they've really had no power to do anything, either group, really. There was a little bit of interference at the time, because she was still around, by a party we call Artemis, also known as the Red Queen in some circles. And she did give a 3-year extension to the Order of the Black Sun, who also failed to achieve their objective. That agreement has also now expired, obviously. I know math is hard for these people, but they're going to have to, count. And at this moment in time, everybody's kind of getting a little bit angry. The private groups are angry that their black market funding has gone away. A lot of the other groups that had legitimate contracts are angry because they're not getting paid out. They were promised a much larger war in Israel that obviously is not taking place based on the fact, there was a little bit of a skirmish, I guess you would say, this week, but nothing major. And of course, as of today, nothing happened. I know the media narrative on this is, Hamas got scared because Trump said, you got till noon to do this and release the hostages. But in reality land, there was no money. Nobody can fight for free, not either side. So they decided to call off the scam, and then they did the hostage exchange as normal underneath the ceasefire agreement. There have been some calls from the country of Qatar. And in the country of Qatar, they have stated, quote, we have invested a lot of money in this Trump organization plan. Where is it? We've always considered the United States a friend. They've never done us like this before. Why are they, I have to say, I'll take out all the swear words, but basically, why are they screwing us over all of a sudden? This is private deals. This is corporate deals. There's a lot of oil and gas deals. I mean, there's just been a lot of promises made and zero delivery actually happening. Some of the other questions that are coming up too are related to Trump's position in the world. Well, it's toes up, actually. That's the position he's currently in, meaning he's not standing upright anymore. He's gone. But they definitely told a lot of tales out of school, that's for sure, regarding positions. We'll get to that in just a second. But with other countries, they're even coming out and publicly stating not to trust this current administration in America. They forgot about alliances and, their promises and business dealings between nations. And Germany is one of those countries that have actually come out and publicly stated so. So let's take a look and see what Germany has to say.
We must not allow ourselves to be paralyzed by the flood of announcements. We must not freeze in fear, or as the English saying goes, let's not be deers caught in the headlights. It is clear that the new American administration holds a worldview that is very different from our own. One that shows no regard for established rules, for partnerships that have grown over a long time.
Interesting. What they're saying behind the scenes is even worse. They all feel that they have been duped. The information is going out there. I don't know who would be doing such a thing, but pretty much every single country now knows the jig is up. They know that they are being bankrupted by Trump operatives and in cooperation with the Rothschilds / Order of the Dragon families. They also know that if they were operatives, they have been cut off from their money making as well. And those that could be in the know in any country, anywhere, that could actually trace this without any kind of, let's just say, they do have ways that when they hack this stuff and this money goes out, they use things like black dust and a number of other techniques that are normal human computer things that hide electronic traces. But good news is we have all those electronic traces and have dispersed all said information to pretty much every country. So there are no, we're not hiding anything from anybody anymore, or the Trump people are not hiding anything from anybody anymore. And, the information is out there. So what is really going on, at least as of now? So we understand world leaders are angry. We understand kings from various kings in the Middle East are fairly angry. But there's still a little bit of respect for a position. And that position is not President of the United States. That position is actually Pindar. For those of you that have been following for a while and don't know, and those of you that haven't, that don't know or don't remember what a Pindar actually is, a Pindar is a position amongst the Order of the Dragon, to which it is the 13th seat holder, meaning the top. I use the term family lightly because a name is just a name. And there are many names, for example, underneath the Rothschild or Rothschild umbrella, just as the same as there is for the Lee family in China, and the Russian group and the Iranian group. So they are quote unquote blood-related folks who hold 12 seats in the Illuminati or the Order of the Dragon. The Pindar holds the 13th seat. And for some odd reason, they think that Trump has been or was appointed Pindar. They believe this happened on a trip to Saudi Arabia. You remember the picture that circulated around the internet with the ball and the shiny glowing ball thing? They thought that that had something to do with the appointment, but it really didn't, actually. There was a time where he was promised said position, if you recall, and allegedly the Order of the Dragon selected him. Now, in reality land, that means absolutely nothing, because they don't actually have a right to select a Pindar. The Pindar was someone that was always chosen by Marduk and ratified by Marduk, and then an interesting ceremony would take place. Because there was no Marduk at the time of this selection, there was no official appointment to the position. However, if you recall, I told you that the chair spent a lot of time over in Mar-a-Lago. And Trump sat in the chair, stood up, sat in the chair, stood up. Nothing actually happened. Now, this is what they call the chair of destiny. If you sit in the chair and you are the right person, then something crawls up in you. And that is what actually gets the power. It's never the actual person per se, but in the public eye or non-public eye, that person would be seen as someone of power, mainly because they were inhabited by a very powerful, for lack of a better term, demon. And that is how the order used to be run. But it didn't work because there was no official appointment of Trump. Shortly thereafter, one of the crazy Trump operatives comes rocking up in Durango, Colorado, if you remember this, and decides that he is the chosen one. He said that they're going to bring about the end of the world. He's one of the fallen angels or archangel or something crazy, which is all a lie, and that they're going to blow up the world and all of this. And you remember that was Armageddon 1.0. But that was not before the chair was transported to Durango, Colorado, and a bunch of generals decided to sit in the chair to see if they had the golden booty. If you remember the golden booty story, everybody sat in the chair. Nobody had anything crawl up in there. Then the chair went back to Mar-a-Lago, where it sat for quite a long time. The impression that they have of Trump being Pindar, maybe this ties into the reason why they thought if he got back into the president's seat and hooked up the terminal in the White House, that it would actually work. Maybe that's why everybody's still listening to this person, or not dead person, I guess, or this administration, or I don't know what you call that, Duck Dynasty. Why everybody's listening to the Duck Dynasty folks. But I can assure you that is how the Pindar position is created. But the being that created the position is no longer here. Pindar loosely translates into penis of the dragon. Dragon in this case being a Draco, which looks like a flying dragon, aka Marduk. So, yeah, there will be no more penises of dragons or Pindar positions being held now or in the future, because the organization is defunct. Meaning, are there people that in families that participated in the Order of the Dragon still walking this earth? Yes. Are they able to perform functions on any full moon, new moon, 2222, or whatever days, or 1111, or anything? No. Have they transferred any money anywhere? No. Beyond money, do they have any kind of intelligence, communication lines with any kind of alien race that makes them superior to others? No. Are they in control of a matrix, a hologram, or anything else? No. Do they have people that attempt to work black magic in their favor so that things work out for them? Yes, constantly. It is quite a show of ridiculousness. But yet that doesn't work out either. So to answer their question, there is no Pindar at this time. There hasn't been a Pindar in quite a long time. Officially a Pindar. Matter of fact, even when Obama had been appointed Pindar for a short period of time, nothing crawled up in there. Same with Hillary. She had been appointed for a short period of time. Nothing crawled in there. So this has been an ongoing saga of trying to pick a Pindar since Ferdinand Marcos passed away in 2016. I know everybody thinks he passed away in the 80s. That is a lie. He was still seen alive in 2016 by yours truly, who had met him and talked to him quite a bit. So that was the actual last real Pindar that had something crawl up in there that gave him the ability to do a lot of things that he did at that time. And since then, it's been kind of a show. There is no such thing. I know actually there were a few people, let's just say, big promises coming from the Trump organization about who would be selected next should something happen to Trump. Remember, just a few short days ago, not quite a full week yet, they were planning on his assassination as soon as they got a hold of a system somewhere. So, yeah, as soon as he was assassinated, they were going to pick the royal family of Qatar. They were going to pick the king of Bahrain, the Kuwaitis, the Chinese, the Russians. Everybody was going to be voted in as Pindar. And as soon as he was fake assassinated, and then they put in Vance and kind of wiped out all their debt, I guess. Who knows with these people. I am truly shocked, actually. I mean, I knew they were bad and I knew they were crazy, but what they're doing out there now, even behind the scenes, is absolutely clinically insane. If they want to bankrupt the country, fine. They want to bankrupt the world, fine. But who do you think is going to follow you when it's all said and done, when you try to install your new world order and you think you're going to be the king of North America and Trump is the last president and all of these crazy things that they're saying? Because it doesn't look like anybody at this moment in time. As of today, there was planned meetings. The meeting started at 10 a.m. this morning, Eastern Standard Time. They did have some of those meetings because that was amongst their inner circle. They were discussing whether or not they had any kind of success, whether they were able to get into any systems, and the answer is no. They definitely gave it a go in the last couple of days, everywhere from Menwith Hill in the United Kingdom to Washington, D.C., to Maryland, and all parts in between. They were definitely giving it a go and trying. I think they were even in Finland earlier this week. It has been one hacking event after another hacking event. So they didn't get anywhere. Just for those of you that are waiting for this meeting, it was supposed to be at noon, which is where the quote-unquote world leaders, aka operatives, heads of state, that type of thing, were supposed to get paid, including the Israelis and the Hamas and all these other people that are involved in this media campaign that's going on that's hurting a lot of people. They were told at noon that it would be moved till 2. They were told at 2 it would be moved till 4 Eastern, which at the time of this recording is about 42 minutes away as of this moment. So are they going to be able to pull this off? Right now, you've got everybody livid, and I mean livid, that they have yet to come to the phone. Meanwhile, they're continuing to beat their head up against the wall, also known as trying to hack into our system, which is definitely not working and never ever will. So that's kind of the state of the world right now. And I knew things were going to be bumpy for a number of different reasons through the middle of February. And then by the end of the month, things should be a lot smoother by that point. Are these people going to walk away from them? Well, they always get angry like this and they feel disrespected, and they've obviously had money stolen from them. They realize that now. There have been many parties that are involved with the order that gave donations based on the fact that they were under the impression that Trump was Pindar, and he is not. There are other people on the other side of things, Order of the Black Sun, who are your black magic groups, who are under the impression he was playing the role and been selected to be the Antichrist. That is also not the case. There is nothing there. You've got a bunch of crazy people who don't have anything in there anymore. So let's talk more about the progress front. We're watching the events closely. We're seeing what they do. Part of this is based on our cue, so to speak, for us to move forward without interference as a group, as CARE. Other than that, yeah, you kind of stepped on my toes this week. They did. So, and I'm not done yet with them either. So I'm going to continue the rest of my plan, which I'll inform you about, of course, every step of the way, as I always do. We're very transparent here as opposed to everybody else. Okay, next, universe, the universal stabilization. So we've been talking for quite some time about changing the way that creation happens in the universe. And this has been met with a lot of resistance, mainly from beings such as Marduk. Oh, Marduk. God, long after he's gone, he still reigns. He still lingers, on the daily. And that is waning. So these are positive things that are happening here. Source would get so far, meaning, and there would be some kind of a fusion of a Marduk AI to even humans, to computers, to to Earth itself and all kinds of things. Once you break that, then, it will move into that spot. Source will move into that spot. But this has kind of left people feeling, whether they understand it or don't understand it, feeling a little bit unstable. It almost feels like there is an energetic war going on within yourself. So in some cases, it feels a little bit like, wow, I'm so uncomfortable, I'm in pain, but gee, it's Christmas Day and I'm so excited at the same time. And I've had a lot of reports about this. It feels like sometimes I'm in so much emotional pain, physical pain, mental pain, et cetera, kind of wins out a little bit. Then on the other hand, 20 minutes later, it feels like, wow, this is so amazing, all of the things that are happening. And it almost feels like that excitement feeling, a little kid would feel right before Christmas, or even some of us. I mean, get excited for holidays of all kinds, obviously Christmas not being the only one. And it's a little bit confusing, and I guess I didn't realize how destabilizing it can feel. If you're on the outside looking in. I'm kind of in the trenches on this one, so I get a lot of these feelings all of the time, and some of it's backlash from removing things, some of it is angry people, those types of things, but I'm used to it. So I guess I didn't really realize how much it was affecting everyone else as far as the instability is concerned. But it's not going to take too much longer. The destabilization feeling is not only here on Earth, it's also throughout the multiverse, as there is almost a tug of war, or was a tug of war going on between beings that put triggers and time release things in place to stop Source from overriding their quote-unquote authority. And in a lot of ways, Marduk had so many agreements with so many beings and so many dead man switches, it was unreal. And they say absolute power corrupts absolutely. What he actually had was pretty much absolute power. And he didn't care who he had to make a deal with to get it at the time. So there's still some remnants of him left behind, but the time released situation has mostly been cleaned up. It doesn't look like there's anything else out there. We don't have any more time released situations coming from from beyond the grave. So that's a positive thing. Anything we're seeing now has been, for the last 24 hours at least, pretty minor. The bulk of the turmoil here on Earth is actually due in part to people. You see, we have our groups, meaning the light side. And the light side, we are aware of a lot of things going on in our world and in the universe. A lot of us have that connection and gain that wisdom fairly easily. On their side, they gain knowledge, and they want what they want when they want it. On our side, we want what we want as well. We're just not as crazy as they are. At least we see them as crazy. I'm sure they see us as a little bit crazy too. So that being said, I get it. But we are of one consciousness. We are all a part of the current sea of consciousness, essence, energy, matter, frequency, wisdom or knowledge, love or condemnation, however you want to put it. It's a part of all of us and has always been a part of all of us. So as Source starts to replace the darkness and anything that is neutral out there, it can be a little bit disturbing for some people, and it can be driving people a little bit crazy. There's a little bit of a testiness, a push and a pull. For others of us, it's like, can't you see what's happening right in front of you? Don't you see it? Don't you see it? And no, they don't see it or don't want to see it. As far as the other side, meaning the dark side, they still think they're fighting a war. They think that they still have an opportunity as long as, number one, we have not bypassed them. As far as in their mind it's them we're bypassing, but it's not. Bypassing them to transfer funds. I actually told someone on the phone on purpose, and they fall for this every time, you know? You know, it's kind of like one of those things where you put them into a position where they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't, right? So yesterday I had told somebody that I was going to transfer some funds and I was going to give them some information at noon Eastern time. And I told them I would call them back. Well, I didn't say I was going to transfer money at noon, but apparently the whole deep state thought that that's what I said. And, you know, they were all hands on deck, ready to attack that bank and that account that I said I was going to transfer it to. So thank you for exposing what was left underneath Georgetown and a few other places, Georgetown, Maryland. And so I appreciate you for doing my job for me. That's great. Don't think that they could have used it to block us in any way, shape, or form. But, you know, it's always good to clean up darkness on this planet. So I guess you could say in part it does affect source coming through, source and energy, and it can definitely be disruptive to the current C. I don't mean little papers that you spend. I mean all currencies, even the currency of energy known as, well, now currency, not money anymore. It can be very disturbing and disrupting. What has become evident is there are or were several people who were inhabited by a second being. As you know, I've talked about that. And it seemed as if they came, let's just say, against the wrong people in the last 24 hours. And it seems like they're all losing their extra inhabitant there in their person, which should help with the stabilization. Now they're just a bunch of chanting people, so that's great. As far as the disruptions in the currency, yeah, I mean, they're definitely making some waves, but the ability to do that will only exist as long as we still have a small amount of duality as it relates to energy, essence, and consciousness. Here on Earth, that is waning rapidly. It's waning rapidly everywhere and or complete already. As we plow through anything that's in the way here, once those connections are made, they will have no, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this. Their effect on the currency will wane. They will be forced to have the same source influence that we all have and connection, which means they will be unable to achieve their objectives because you can't use golden energy, essence, consciousness, matter, etc., to weave black magic. So the things that they have or have had the ability to weave with will wane dramatically in the coming days. As for all of you, I'm sure you're feeling the instability. You're feeling a little bit of push and pull, almost like being on a rocking boat where your feet are unstable underneath you at times, depending on how sensitive that you are. Otherwise, it can feel emotionally unstable, mentally unstable. But I can assure you that everything that is going on now, as unstable as it may feel, this is where we're going and this is where we want to be, with source, of course. Your cellular makeup, your mitochondria, everything is starting to spin in the appropriate natural direction. That can be unnerving and unstabling as well, even uncomfortable. And, it's just like being on a rocking boat, where something is trying to turn you to the right and we're trying to go to the left, and, everybody's fighting back and forth. It's much the same with every cell in your body. So bear with it. It's not going to last much longer. However, I understand that this week has been a little bit turbulent for everyone. So I just wanted to say, hang in there. There is an explanation for what it is you're feeling. Everybody is going through it. It's not just you. Even people that don't have a clue as to what's happening in their life right now. So hang in there. We are halfway through February already, and I think that's it's definitely all it was told that it would be. Let me put it that way to you, on a positive note, and at the same time on a negative note, really by almost no doing of governments and the rotten children. I mean, they're playing their part here. They cause currency disturbances somewhat and but it's not going to last much longer. On a side note, you've probably seen some wild Schumann resonance reports and that type of thing, which will be a great indicator as far as extremely low frequencies that are attempting to come into the planet to counteract all that source is doing. That's all it's meant to do, is to counteract the acts of source, the integration of source. It stops it maybe for a few seconds or causes a cog in the wheel, so to speak, but it doesn't stop it on a prolonged basis. As far as these crazy people, I don't know. For some reason, they always think everything is for them, so I'm sure they probably think that, oh, joy, darkness is coming. Yay! We're definitely going to make it this time. Source has other plans. And far be it from me to do anything but help it along the way. And, Source has never steered me wrong in my life, and I'm sure a lot of you probably feel the same. So I pretty much everything that I was told was going to happen this month is happening, and in pretty rapid succession, really. So will anybody, banks or otherwise, walk away from their legacy shareholders or genetic shareholders? If you are the bank, governments, are they going to realize that their covenants and agreements with the Federal Reserve have expired, that the Federal Reserve cannot issue them any funds anymore, and the only one in the world that can actually prevent them from issuing their own currency, meaning their current currency that is registered for them, is myself. If it's not myself, then it's the country themselves still listening and waiting for Rothschild to do something. But the longer you wait, we are days away from seeing some serious, at least behind the scenes bankruptcies. I know that Bank of America was kind of pushing us to make that transfer on Friday and again this morning, mainly because they needed to use that. This is the chatter behind the scenes. They'd like to use my transfer out to follow the line back so that they can then take over the Golden Age AI. But they probably think that this is like a Twitter account or something, and it's really not. Because the Golden Age AI definitely has its own defense mechanisms that we've built. It also doesn't work that way. That's an exit-only door. So I don't really know exactly what they were expecting to achieve. I've already done this with Bank of America in New York, actually quite a while ago. Several years ago, they asked me to send a 199 from the Alpha system. I did, which is a swift pre-advice of cash coming in. I did send that, and they spent hours and hours and hours trying to trace back my line. And that was with alpha. A golden age is even better. I mean, this is an even better AI. So I'm probably never going to happen, but I'll prove that when I am ready. And here in America, Monday is a bank holiday. I think it's President's Day. That doesn't stop us. We work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. ACH works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. EFT works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I will do things when the time is exactly right and not before. And nobody is going to tell me otherwise, because I know. Trust me, I know. As far as people, everybody's struggling. There's a lot of people that are falling on hard times, and I understand that. But just try and hang in there. It has been worse in our lives. It's a time of great transition. I liken this transition to any kind of major change you've ever had to make in your life, whether that is a move to another country, a move across the country, a divorce after many years of marriage, or, even a, change of jobs if you've been on the job, or a change of career, during midlife. These are all large changes that we feel that we have been through in our lives. And you could amplify that by, I would say, by over 100 times, maybe even 1,000 times. This is a change that's never, ever happened before in history of any universe. This is something that is all new. Everybody is adjusting. We have a lot of help. And even this is new for those folks, too. These are not people, obviously. But everybody is doing their best, and I know you are too, to hold that source and be that source anchor here as we make it through this transition. And the lighter it gets here, or the more golden it gets here, the more disturbed our non-friends are going to be. But again, they had a choice. They have a choice. Turn around, go in another direction, or, well, violate natural law, and you'll end up where you end up. And I'm sure Source doesn't mind a few extra people going home rapidly. On that note, that is what's been going on for the last few days. As far as we're concerned here, we're just kind of holding the line, cleaning as much as we can clean, working as hard as we can work to be ready for when they finally fall. We are hoping, and have been hoping, that would be a lot sooner than it has been, but it's not going to be much longer, guys. So continue asking Source and helping Source along when you are able to, as far as making this transition smooth as it can be for everyone. And stay grounded, stay anchored. We're on that topsy-turvy part of change, but we will get through it, just like you've gotten through all of these major changes in your life in the past. You will also get through this one unscathed and come out the other end much stronger and better off for it. So hang in there. I will talk to everybody again on Monday here in the U.S. time, and hopefully we'll have some more good information to report, because these meeting things not happening today is definitely not serving, let's just say it's not in their favor right now. So on that note, this has been the Global Intelligence Agency report for the 15th of February, 2025.